This interview was recorded on May 10th. Welcome to the Polytopian Interviewer, where I interview people on their experiences and views on the Polytopia Discord community. I have Monlet with me today. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just a long day, but hey, I'm here with some friends and we're going to have a good time.
Agreed. First question. How did you first get into the Polytopia Discord?
What happened was during my last semester at university, this thing called COVID-19 sort of turned the world upside down. And because I was locked indoors, I had a lot more screen time. I discovered this game called The Battle of Polytopia. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before. And I got hooked. And then I said, you know what? I see there's a Discord community for this. I have nothing better to do with my life. So I joined the main server, joined up with Quetzali because they were my favorite tribe in the game. Well, I guess you're only talking about the Polytopia Discord. I don't know if you're talking about Polychamps as well, but there's a story that went from me going from Quetzali to then Polychamps. But I guess that answers the primary question that you had there.
How did you join Polychamps then?
That was a bit of a roller coaster because what happened was when you're in the main server on Polytopia, you're allowed to align with whatever tribe that you want to. And I picked Quetzali because they're just my favorite tribe in the game. They just, they have these fields and it's just like, F around and find out. Which I like that mentality. So I joined up with them, and then the tribe leader for Quetzali was like, hey, we're going to have a community event. We're going to have a tribe war with Vengear. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll sign up for that. It was staged in 2 rounds. First round was on the Quetzali server. Second round was on the Vengear server. The first round on the Quetzali server, I got absolutely demolished. I went 0-2. You only had 2 lives, and I died on both of them. So I was like, I guess I'm not as good at this game as I thought. And so then I started playing with some of my friends on the Steam version. Then the second round came around that on the Vengear server, and I joined up and I'm like, all right, my goal is just going to be to break even, go 2-2. I went 0-2 the first time. If I can make it 2-2, that will prove to me that I improved. It was actually so funny because I just kept getting win after win after win after win. I think I went like 6-2 overall in that.
Wow.
And it was absolutely a bloodbath for Vengear. Actually, let me pull it up real quick. Let me find the Vengear server.
Oh, is that why you're in the Vengear server?
That is why I'm in the Vengear server. Ultimately, went up being 15-5. 15 wins for Quetzali, 5 wins for Vengear. And I was like 6 or 7 of those wins or something. What happened was Ulthripe, the tribe leader for Vengear, was just really, really mad that I was just winning. So he DM'd Lego Rouge and was like, hey, there's this guy. Can you just deal with him real quick? He's a noob. He's not even on Polychamps. Just deal with him. And so he was just thinking, all right, that's just going to have that be done with, that part of my life over with. And then I beat Lego Rouge twice. Yes, as a noob.
You beat the assassin.
I have not let him live that down. So what happened was I beat him in the first game, and he was like, you weren't supposed to fight the same person twice to, spread out the wins or whatever. But Ulthripe was like, no, that was beginner's luck. Face him again. After the second time, Lego Rouge was like, hey, so you're kind of good at this game. Have you ever heard of Polychamps? I heard, whispers of it, and I thought it was like, oh, that's the big leagues. He was like, listen, you're pretty good at this. Just come on down, join if you want. You don't need to stay, just see if it's something you'd be interested in. And then I was like, what have I got to lose? It's still COVID time. I can join. So I did, and then I stayed. And for the record, while this is going on air, I would just like to point out I've played a total of 4 games with Lego Rouge. He has yet to beat me once. He's going to beat me eventually. He's a great player, but just want to throw that out there.
Wow.
Oh, and if you're wondering how I ultimately died in the Vengear War, after I beat Lego Rouge, Ulthripe called in Scyfish, who is now an inactive member of the Shrimp, and he put an end to my reign of terror.
I'm guessing that's not related to how you joined the Plague team then?
Yeah, that's a whole other story in and of itself, because once I joined Polychamps, I did my Nova games, as you do. When Lego originally invited me to Polychamps, he was like, just be active, be communicative with your partners in your Nova games, and the recruiter, maybe 1 or 2 recruiters will reach out to you. Eventually, I had recruiters from Jalapenos, Plague, and Bombers reach out to me. And there was a whole load of draft politics involved in that, because what happened was I was ultimately undecided between Plague and Jalapenos because they had let me into their servers. I had met their players, and I was like, these are all good people. I don't know which one I have a favor for. Because at that point, I was like, you know what? I'll just join whatever team gets me. The will of the draft will be the will of the draft. There's actually kind of a funny story to this because the Plague, they wanted me. They liked what they saw in their recruiting game with me. And when it came to the Jalapenos, my recruiter was Black Squirrel. He liked me. Black Squirrel liked me, and I like him. He's a good dude. The leader at the time of Jalapenos was Anonymous Dinosaur, who was later outed to be an alt of Hippo. He didn't like me because what happened was my recruiting game was me and Black Squirrel versus Astria, and I think Rossetti was the other person on the team. So obviously, a pretty bad matchup there in terms of skill level. A Nova and a Junior versus two of the best pros in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting absolutely wrecked by Astria, and Black Squirrel kind of had to carry me hardcore during that game. So that made Hippo not like me at all. Black Squirrel, he still liked me, but Hippo didn't like me. So on the day of the draft, Jalapenos sold their draft picks to Crawfish. So at that point, like, all right, it looks like I'm going to Plague. Then, literally at the 11th hour, 11 p.m. Eastern time before the draft or something like that, I get another DM from Lego Rouge. And he says, hey, so I noticed you're a Nova grad, and let me tell you what, Crawfish is picking first in this upcoming draft. You did good in that community event you were in. I think you'd make a good addition to Crawfish. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, it's the night before the draft. I've already been in contact with Plague, and I'm not really sure what should be happening here. And he was like, look, just come onto the server. You're going to see some friendly old faces there. I go on the server. I see Ulthripe is there. I see Scyfish is there. At the time, their leader was a big tree, and he was talking to me. He was a nice guy for the 5 seconds I was on their server, because I was like, oh, wow, there's people here that I recognize. I was being full disclosure with all of my recruiters that had reached out to me. Like, I let them know what teams were reaching out to me so that I could, because I wanted their teams to be able to make the best decision for their team. So I told Sergeant Sub, I was like, hey, just full disclosure, Crawfish are picking first. They said they want me, and I thought I should let you know. Sergeant Sub was like, oh, hell no. No, I'm not letting that happen. He straight up told me, he was like, look, this draft for Plague has been all about you. All right, we were looking at one, maybe two other Novas, and we didn't like them. They didn't vibe with us. We don't like them. We don't like how they play, but we want you. We like you. And so they literally bankrupted the team. They had 0 fats, 0 free agent tokens. They boosted themselves up to first pick to pick before Crawl. I was absolutely floored. I knew Plague wanted me, but I didn't think they wanted me that badly.
Wow.
Literally, they bankrupted the team. They spent, I think it was 4 free agent tokens to get me. Actually, it might have been 7 after all the other things were done. Either way, a ridiculous amount.
Mm-hmm.
As I was talking to Lego Rouge and Big Tree, I was like, yeah, so I might have underestimated how much Plague wants me, and they just bankrupted the team to get me. I have been a member of Plague ever since, and I absolutely love it there, over in the green corner of Polychamps. It's not a team that's particularly active in community talks, but once you get on the team, the guys over there are just absolutely great. Super chill, awesome, amazing people. Absolutely love my home over there. Don't worry, we've gotten our money back afterwards, and I made sure that their free agent tokens were worth their time. I got them some season wins. They didn't spend their money for nothing.
That sounds like a good trade.
Yeah, exactly.
You're also a team recruiter now. What are some of your duties with that?
Actually, the way that happened was kind of funny because Plague is a bit notorious for their players not really being active in community chats and in public chats. I like to joke that our only activity exists in the game chats where we discuss games. And then after that, they just get tired out. They're like, I don't really have the energy left to talk elsewhere. But I have no life. Ha ha ha, cry on the inside. So I'll be active in community talks. What happened was Sergeant Sub, our team leader, basically said to me, hey, so you're our most active member, so you probably haven't been the rest of our team. So do you want to be a recruiter? And I was like, okay. That was 3 days ago, and now I'm a recruiter for Plague.
So
yeah,
very recent.
It's a fun time. Yeah, extremely recent. It's funny because now that I'm a recruiter, I was able to actually go back in the recruiter talk to see when they were looking to recruit me. I drastically underestimated how much the team actually liked me at the time. Sergeant Sub wasn't kidding when he said that draft was all about me. Back to that draft, by the way, I would just like to point out, Astria is the reason that I wasn't picked by Jalapenos because he made Hippo not like me, and now Astria is a member of Reapers. And I love the poetic irony of that. It's gone full circle, or something like that.
Interesting. Back to the PC. You're a coach. What's that like?
What they're doing with that is they're trying to do a coaching live stream type of thing where established juniors and established pros will live stream games. It's still in its infancy. The streams are, anyway. What they do is where you would stream the game, and it's tailored mostly towards Novas to sort of walk through the thought process of your turn, like why you made the decisions that you made, why you spent your stars on what you spent them on, to sort of help Novas learn the basics of the game and sort of the decision-making process that leads you to win. It's a fun time, particularly when you're doing the 2v2s, especially since the 2v2s, you're supposed to communicate with your teammate as you would in like a season game to show Novas like, hey, this is the level of communication that you should have in order to be successful in your games on Polychamps. It's still in its infancy, and it definitely has a lot of room to grow. I was just involved because the mod staff, particularly Lego Rouge and Front Door Matt, have known that I was already involved in things like Poly Live. And so they're like, hey, so you clearly don't mind hopping in voice chat. You clearly don't mind streaming stuff. We think you'd be well suited for this. And I was like, well, okay, I'll give it a try. And, it's a fun time. You get to chat with Novas, teach people how to play the game, feel smart. Good time. Good time.
And then also possibly find people for Plague and get the team's reputation up.
Yes, I will admit that there is a kind of selfish element to that. And I was even talking to Sergeant Sub about this earlier, because they're thinking of having the format turn to streamed 2v2 games of a pro and a junior from the same team versus a pro and a junior from another team. And I've been trying to find other members of Plague who would be able to be the pro since I'm still the junior. There are a couple that I think would be willing to do it, namely Finite, who is a pro-level player who is still a junior that we use to boost our junior team. He's a great guy. I've been in voice chat with him before. He's probably most likely who you're going to see pairing up with me there. Anyhow, that's going off topic because, as I was saying, there is kind of a selfish element to it because I was talking to Sergeant Sub and I said, hey, so this coaching live stream thing, it's excellent advertisement for Plague. Just to, show ourselves off, have people recognize us. And maybe if I see somebody I like in chat, I'd be willing to slide up into those DMs and be like, hey, by the way, I'm a recruiter for Plague. It'd be pretty fun to do that.
Any plans to be part of the pro team?
I should be considered a pro. I would very much still say that I'm a junior player, and particularly also because there's multiple other members of our junior team on the Rats who I would say are far more deserving of the promotion to the pro team than I am. Don't know if I'm supposed to name names on here, but shout out to Finite, shout out to John H, shout out to Puck. Those are some good dudes. They're great at the game. I learned so much in my games with them. Yeah, they definitely deserve to be promoted before I do.
So you're not striving to be a pro?
That's down the road. Certainly not anytime soon, I would say. There's definitely folks more qualified than I.
In Polylife, you have the head commentator role. What does that all entail?
Pretty much the reason I have that is because when Polylive was born, my team leader, Sergeant Sub, if you can't tell, I'm very good friends with Sergeant Sub.
What? You only mentioned him 4 times so far.
Oh, come on. It's easily been at least 50. Come on, Tntmasta, get it right. Anyhow, as I said, I'm good friends with him, and he said, hey, we're making this live blitz format, and we need people to commentate. You've been in chats before. Would you be willing to do it? And I was like, hey, we might as well give it a try. And what happened was, apparently I have a voice that's easy to listen to. So I quickly became a crowd favorite with the staff over at Polylive. Just was commentating, and they liked my style of commentary. Me and the other head commentator, there's 2 head commentators on Polylive, me and Disco. He pretty much set up the guidelines for how we expect the commentary to be done there.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the job of the head commentator is to take people who are prospective commentators and have them commentate over a practice game. Afterwards, give them feedback. It's a very wonderful system because I find that a lot of people think that they aren't good at commentating, but then if you just sort of give a nudge in the right direction, they're stars. Pretty much the job of the head commentator is, well, obviously first commentate the live games, which is absolutely fun, particularly if you have somebody to co-commentate with, because you guys can just sort of riff off of each other, talk about the game, make jokes about what's going on, have a fun time. And then obviously train people who want to be commentators, kind of like interview them and have them practice, just so that we don't have to rely on just one or two people to commentate our games, and hopefully then have people spread out enough that the players on Poly Live would be able to pick really any time to play and not worry about whether or not there's going to be a commentator. Because right now, at the moment, most of our commentators are located in North America, between the United States and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, the European players in the bracket would often have to be scheduling games late at night for them, so that our American and Canadian commentators would actually be awake and conscious enough to talk. We've got several very wonderful people in Europe and in Australia as well. I think we have one. Actually, don't quote me on the Australia bit.
Are you saying you don't want to get up at 5 a.m. on Saturday to commentate?
Actually, it's funny because, oh wait, I think no, it wasn't you. There was a game, because the times and everything are listed on PolyLive in a 24-hour clock. So I saw that there was a game between Astria and I think Baccalol. And I saw that the time was listed as 5, and I was like, oh, okay, 5 p.m. I'll be done working, then I'll be able to do that. And then I signed up for it, and someone said, shout-outs to Monlet commentating at 5 a.m. And I was like, what? And then I double-checked, and like, oh, wait, 24-hour clock. Wait, that's 5 o'clock in the morning! Yeah, so I did almost sign up to commentate at 5 in the morning. So yeah, funny you mentioned that.
You're in Wicked Bender. Will you eventually play a game there?
Maybe. I joined because THP... Well, first of all, I joined because I'm like, oh, this is an interesting format. And then I just kind of lurked. And then I stayed on because it was around the time that the Season 12 games were ending. I stayed specifically because THP, who is arguably the best pro player on Plague, notorious because he had a ridiculous win streak on Polychamps of 143 wins or something, it made it to the finals on Wicked Bender. They had text channels open for both of the players involved in the finals, and you could follow through. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stick around and tune into THP's side because he's a great player. I could learn a lot from tuning into this game. Oh boy, did I learn a lot from that. And shout out to THP picking up the win there. Season 12 champion, glory to the green. Boom! Those games are absolutely epic. Like, legitimately, one of the games that he had on in Season 12, he was playing as Shinji, and his opponent, whose name totally escapes me at the moment, was playing as Omaji. Omaji had 3 cities, because it was a tiny map, and THP managed to siege all 3 of them at once in one turn, and that's what got him the win. I was like, wow, that's the stuff that separates the pros from the juniors. So yeah, maybe I'll hop in Wicked and actually participate, because it is an interesting format, but it's kind of intimidating because the leaderboard is completely dominated by these super legendary, untouchable pros, and here I am, a measly junior with less than 1 season under his belt. Yeah.
But it's a different format
maybe I won't.
that they also mastered.
Exactly. So, like, you're talking about people who are adept enough at the game that they have mastered 2 formats, basically, and then some.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you spend most of your time with team games in your team server and probably live and around that.
Yeah, that would be an accurate assessment, I would say. Mostly because I was given 4 season games for Plague for reasons X, Y, and Z, even though I was a recent draftee. I got involved with the community, and I kind of fell in love with it. Met some awesome people over there on Plague. It's honestly a shame that they're not more involved in public chats and whatnot. They're such absolutely wonderful people. Wonderful friends that I've made all around the world over there. Absolutely love it over there. Great players as well.
Quetzali is clearly your favorite tribe. Is your least favorite tribe Vengir because of lore, or is there a different one?
I am a complicated man because I would say Quetzali holds a special place in my heart, specifically because of the backstory I mentioned earlier, how it kind of is what led me down the avenue, down the rabbit hole to Polychamps. Because of that, it holds a special place in my heart. I don't want to say that I have a tribe that I'm like, oh, I absolutely hate this tribe. It's the worst ever. Blah, 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 blah. Each tribe has its pluses and minuses. Each tribe has its ups and downs. I'd say probably my least played tribe would probably have to be either Omaji or Vengir, only because they're not as viable in high-level competitive play that you see on Polychamps and PolyLive, which is another reason the Wicked Bender format is, and even the PolyLive format is pretty interesting, because that's when you see those kind of low-tier tribes come out and take the spotlight. So you're not just seeing Barter, Luxador, Kiku, Imperius.
Well, with the balance
So yeah, I
pass,
wouldn't
it's
say
just Cymanti now.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to change my answer. I forgot Cymanti existed. Cymanti is my least favorite tribe just because of how broken and overpowered it is. Yeah. Changing my answer. I'm just kidding. Cymanti's great. They're fun to play. They're not fun to play against, but they're fun to play.
Saving yourself, I see. So you're perfectly fine with playing Aquarian for all your team games then?
Oh, no, not for team games, no.
Why not?
There's times when Aquarian is okay. Like, if there's like a map with a lot of water, teaming up Aquarian and Kiku, that's fun. But like, if it's an actual serious game on lakes with my team and it's ranked ELO, that's when you're gonna see me break out. Like, Barter, Imperius Luxador, Yadak has been a lot better this patch, I would say. Stuff like that.
Okay. Favorite unit?
Well, Knights, if typically the first person to get Knights will win. So typically you can have like a really cool finisher with a Knight, like, shout out to THP on Wicked Bender, sieging all 3 cities, solving part of that puzzle with a really epic Knight chain. The Knight would be up there, and also I would say the Battleship, because especially with just how the naval combat works, you need to have if there's water on a map, you need to have battleships in order to win. Mm-hmm. And I'm always just a sucker for the Navy whenever it's in a game. So when you have a wooden thing that blasts cannons, I'm just like, So either the Knight or the Battleship. That's my final answer.
Do you have a least favorite strategy?
It's not really a strategy. It's a mistake that I have seen particularly newer players make a lot, and it absolutely crawls under my skin.
Get climbing?
Not really, because sometimes climbing can be useful, sometimes. But no, the mistake I was going to say was, and the reason it irks me is because it's a mistake that I used to make, is that if you're playing a tribe that does not level up on turn 0, i.e. not Barter, not Kiku, not Imperius, not Zabasi, and you research a technology on turn 0 instead of spawning a warrior. That just irks me the absolute wrong way, because first of all, if you research that technology on turn 0, you start the game with 5 stars, so you immediately bankrupt yourself. You leave yourself with just 1 unit and an income of 2 stars a turn. Maybe you can spawn a warrior next turn, but you're setting yourself behind. Exploring as much as possible in the early game is what really will help you expand, find more cities, outgrow your opponent, and ultimately get you the win. If you take 2 players, give them the same exact tribe that does not level up on turn 0, 1 player researches the technology turn 0, 1 player spawns a warrior turn 0, the player that spawned a warrior on turn 0 will always win, just because researching that technology on turn 0 really just messes up your pace so badly.
Mm-hmm.
It sets you back far enough that if somebody presses that advantage, you can't come back from that. There's a game that I'm in on the Polychamp server where my teammate did that exact mistake. I wanted to strangle him. I was so mad.
Oh, I was so mad.
I was like, oh, sad times. I don't think it classifies as a strategy, but it's just whenever I see that, I just cry a little bit. Part of my soul dies.
What's the most memorable game you ever played?
I'm torn between 2. They were both season games that I just played for Plague, or rather more accurately for the Rats. The first one, you gotta love Moonrise names. It was called Use Gigi and Dawn, and it was me and Finite, our pro level player on Rats, against the Valkyries. And that was such a fun game because, first of all, both of these games were before the patch. So you had those crazy chopping economy puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
He was Kiku, and I was Quetzali. First of all, this was actually the first season game that I played for Rats. What happened was we played on continents, so there was more water than usual, and it made Kiku more viable. It was me and him, and our opponents both picked Imo, which, for those unaware, at the time, Kiku was a 3-point tribe, Quetzali was a 1-point tribe, and Imo was a 1-point tribe. So it was 4 points total against 2 points total. We gave them the option of saying, hey, you're an Imo clone. Are you sure you want to do that? One of us is a Kiku. And they said, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't realize clones were... We talked to the mods. They said we can do this if you guys are okay with it. And we ultimately decided, sure, we can go with that. So there was an argument being made at the time that Imo should be worth 2 points because they have access to Altar of Peace. But long story short, this game kind of proved that that's not really the case, because what ultimately happened was I was convinced I was going to die because I was 1v1ing one of the Imos in a land battle. And that really just turned into World War I style trench warfare because I'm Quetzali and when you're Quetzali, digging in like it's World War I is the absolutely most viable strategy if you're able to make sure your shields don't die. I'll never forget it because I was committing most of my military to that front, and we were having Finite really assume the naval burden because he was unopposed on the little continent that he spawned on. So he was able to just pump out naval units, naval units, naval units. So we decided that he would assume the naval burden and spawn all the ships needed to give us control of the sea. I'll never forget it because on like turn 10, we had decided at that point that I was safe because we saw that the IMO on the continent adjacent to Finite had roads, sailing. I don't even remember what technology, but so many that were like, all right, there's no way he has navigation. It was only a turn 10 or 11. So like, all right, no way he has navigation with that level of tech that he's researched. And I'll never forget it because Finite said, and I quote, hey, so after this turn, we're going to need to leave a unit on your coastal city so that he can't get a siege for free. And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. We probably have more time, but I'll spawn something there next turn. And then I close Discord. The following day, I get a notification. It's your turn and use GG and done. So I open it up. And wouldn't you know it, that son of a gun just sails onto my city for free. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
Uh-oh.
And so I was like, all right, that's just it. My entire military is over on the western side of the map, making sure this IMO doesn't come into me. I'm about to get overrun. It's over. It's done. Me and Finite were freaking out to the point where we actually pinged the game advisors. On the Plague server, if you're having a particularly troubling time in the game, you can ping people who've volunteered to be game advisors to give advice in such a circumstance. They come to us and said, okay, look. They're both IMO. One of you is a Kiku. Don't worry. Just make sure that Kiku stays on the seas. Make sure you get rid of that one giant battleship that IMO has, and you guys are going to be fine. That's basically what happened. I just dug in, and we did several puzzles that ended up with me kicking Rex's IMO off of the city that he stole from me. And what happened was the one that was on the continent with me got knights. We thought that was going to be it at that point, even though Finite had control of the sea. But he must have misclicked or something because he attacked one of my warriors that was on a forest that had a defense bonus because of archery. Because of that, his knight stopped. And at that point, they called GG. And they're like, yeah, we're off the ocean. We can't come back from that. That one I absolutely loved. Another one of my season games over on Plague. Again, you gotta love Moonrise Generation names. It was called Lucky Sleds. It was me and John H. against the Narwhals. And what happened with that one was, oh gosh, I love it so much. I still have the game map on my phone in my Polyphobia app. I don't want to close it. I just love it so much. There's so many good memories from that one. Let's see, brief summary of that one. I'll try to make this shorter than the last one. So the matchup was, I was Kiku, Jean was Barter, and we were against Barter and Luxor. The way that the game had turned out was Jean managed, and by the way, I'm actually saying his name correctly. His name is spelled like Jean, but he's Swiss French, so it's pronounced Jean, and not being a jerk or whatever. What had happened was he managed to siege one of our enemy Luxador's cities early, and Lux kind of let him have it because they thought they could reconquer it. But throughout the course of the game, Jean invested so much. I think we spawned at least 4 giants on that city to push off sieging giants. Yeah, it was ridiculously insane. It was like, yo, if we ever lose this city, this game's donezo. Oh, it was so great. And then there was, on my side of the map, I was Kiku, so obviously I needed to get on the water ASAP. I found 2 whales by my second city, obviously pre-patched, so I was able to scoop them up, get rich. Here comes the money. And there was this one city that was across the water that I had a really fierce naval battle with Barter on to make sure that they didn't get it. The strategy ultimately came down to I focused pretty much 100% on the Navy. I didn't even focus on Luxor. I think I took one city from Luxor, but my primary goal was just to delay them, just kill any units that they had coming at me, not really actively push at them, and have Jean sort of take the brunt there, win the naval war against Barter, because it was just one really big central lake that we had between me and Barter. It was so fun because the naval war was so absolutely intense. The balance of power on that water kept going back and forth, back and forth. And I came to learn during the course of the game that Seb and Turtle, two pro players on Dragons, were actually advising the players that we were against. And I still managed to win the naval battle. Jean managed to hold on to his city. Jean managed to break down Barter. And it got to a point where Luxor was reduced to 2 cities. Jean had knights. I completely kicked Barter off of the ocean. And they called GG. They were like, yeah, it's done. Oh, that was such a good game. Because it was like, oh yeah, you've got pros advising you, and we still got you. Someone's pointing out, yeah, okay, but it's Turtle. I mean, but also Seb, though. Seb was the primary concern in terms of advising. No disrespect to Turtle, but no, yeah, disrespect to Turtle. I'm allowed to do that. I have beaten Turtle in one game. I am allowed to throw disrespect over there. Loving disrespect. Friendly.
How many games are you usually in at once?
That's a good question. Let's find out. If I had to guess, I'd probably wager at least like 7 or so. That is 1, 2, 3. That's actually way more than I thought. Yeah, that's 8 games right now. That sounds about accurate. I imagine that's gonna tick down once I go to dental school starting in the fall. 8 actual serious ranked games, and there's another 3 or 4 in there that are unranked, casual, just for funsies. 12 total, but of that, only 8 are actually going to affect my ELO.
Okay. A lot of people that are serious about their ELO and the team, they usually have about 30 games at once.
With all the stuff I've got going on in my life, and with how much I'm doing in the community as well, that's enough for me. My plate is full. Thank you very kindly much.
Fair enough. Wait, you mean you do have a life? Oh!
Yeah, I might have lied earlier. If I had any advice to people at home, don't grow up. Once you get above the age of 20, things just become complicated. Don't grow up. You have so much more time when you're young. Don't become an old, grouchy cynic like me.
But you're a grouchy cynic that's also the head commentator for Pod Live, a really good Plague player, really high ELO. That's a lot of things going for you.
I don't know about really high ELO. It's like
Decent.
It's 1100 or something. What even is my ELO? Let's find out.
Well, if you beat people up in Maine, it's a lot easier to get up.
Yeah, no, speaking of which, I know InnoFunny is listening to this right now. I have been considering taking him up on his offer to just curb stomp faces in Maine. Just for that juicy, sweet, free ELO.
Just gotta do 1v14s.
Do 1v4? Oh god, no. No. No, thank you. Thank you, but no thank you.
1v11?
Thank you, but no thank you. No.
Oh.
1v1 is the most I will do, and even then I suck at those. Shoutouts to InnoFunny for absolutely crushing me like twice in a 1v1.
I've did some 1v2s, only on this server, of course. And since I kept being paired against the same 2 people, after about 3 games, they finally won a game. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to let you guys be partners anymore, because you're obviously going to beat me because of the economy.
Yeah, I've got some friends that I play casually with. One of them has won, I think, twice against me over the course of easily 30 plus games. Both of those wins were either because I let them pick a 4-point tribe when I picked a 1-point tribe, or just I got absolutely spawn loss. And I'm just like, are you sure you want to keep doing this? I feel bad at this point.
Hopefully they learn from all the games you play against them.
You'd think.
I mean, statistically, eventually they'll get better.
I mean, yeah, eventually. Over the course of the last few weeks, apparently not.
See, a few weeks isn't very long. You gotta do over the long term, like
Exactly,
3
which is why I'm
months.
afraid of what's going to happen next month. Don't get me wrong, they've already learned a huge deal. I also have been coaching them as well. Honestly, their main problem is that they're just not aggressive enough. And I'm just like, attack. And they're like, you're dying. And it's like, no, attack.
Hmm,
Take their blood.
that's
Swedish
a
pagans marching ashore.
that's a possible trait some newbies have. They are hesitant to
Yeah.
attack. Or some of them even go, oh my gosh, I'm so scared, get shields. You just lost. You just lost.
Yeah. Honestly, the only time to really get shields is if you are in a 2v2 or a 3v3 and your only objective is to survive so that your teammates can do the work. That's honestly the only time that it should be acceptable to pick up shields.
Then you can be a Loki.
Yes.
Last question. What's your favorite part of the Discord Polytopia fandom? Let me guess, the teams?
Are you talking about specifically on Polychamps or just the community in general?
It can be either.
Honestly, just thinking about it, I think it's the same answer for both. Just the people. Because here's the thing about the Polychamps community. It really is an absolutely international community. I've met people from so many different countries, so many parts across the world. I've been playing with people in Switzerland, Canada, Poland, Russia, Malaysia, Japan, India. What others am I thinking of? Sweden, Spain, Mexico. So many different countries, so many different nationalities, so many different ethnicities, people from all these vastly different walks of life who are just so willing to be kind and nice to everybody that they meet and be willing to collaborate for this game. Just the fact that you're meeting all these people and possibly even people who, had they known each other in real life, maybe they wouldn't be friends with one another. Someone in chat is saying, name 2 people from Malaysia. Monomyth is one of them, not from Malaysia, but currently living in Malaysia. He's the one I was thinking of. You think about everything going on in the world and how there's so much conflict and strife and ethnic tension, war, and all this nasty geopolitics and whatnot. And then here you have the
Pandemic.
Polytopia community, where you have all these people just laughing together, playing together. And it really is just one of those things that kind of restores your faith in humanity a little bit. Here's this place where we all have common ground. We don't see each other as enemies, but we see each other as friends. We just have a good time and just play a game together. Exactly. And somebody said in the chat, the biggest debate is village or ruin. Exactly. That's why I love the community. Just because you have all these people whose governments might want to have them hate each other, but here we are playing a game together. That's, I'd say, easily, hands down, the single greatest part of the Polytopia Discord community, competitive and casual.
Okay. That's all the questions I had.
All right, awesome. It certainly was a pleasure having me on the show. Certainly was a pleasure being here. And I would like to say a humble thank you, my good sir.
Yeah, thank you as well.
I don't know, with that, I guess we're done here? Question mark?
Yep.
Awesome.
Maybe see you in Polylife then.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll probably be
Season
more
1
active
starts
when I'm done with
at
all
some
this.
point. Yeah, season 1 starts at some point. Funny is also a commentator. I think I've seen Missa in the chat there before. Yay. Okay, I'm gonna head out now then.
Okay. Bye. As always, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share it. For the text version, you can join my Discord in the description. I also have a YouTube channel where I play 1v1s and occasionally do tutorials. We'll be back next week. Bye!